What's up, everybody? This is Eat a Prophet. This video is going to be called Khabib Nurmagomedov and Charles Oliveira are not the greatest lightweights. BJ Penn is the greatest of all time. So I figured I needed to make this video just to remind some of y'all fans who the greatest lightweight to ever compete really is. And no disrespect to Khabib and no disrespect to Charles. I love them both. I think they are the next two best competitors to have ever fought at lightweight. But the greatest is BJ. Man, understand that BJ Penn was the first complete mixed martial artist in the UFC. And if there were two phenoms, two true phenoms, who ever competed in the UFC, it was Anderson Silva and it was BJ Penn. And BJ Penn was the phenom before Anderson Silva. I don't know if a lot of y'all remember, but BJ Penn was the guy that you would try to take down, and this guy would be doing a split on one leg so that you couldn't take him down. He would literally, you would be taking him down, and he would literally be on one leg all the way down in a split, still maintaining his position. I have never, ever seen any other fighter do that. I have never seen another fighter with the flexibility of BJ Penn. And that's what it was all about for BJ Penn. BJ Penn was tight up. Man, he was solid on his feet. He was a master at jiu-jitsu. And he was probably the most flexible fighter I've ever seen compete. And BJ Penn was just a beast. He was a lightweight champ. He left the UFC, came back, became lightweight champ again. But then he did one other thing that no lightweight fighter has ever been able to do in the history of the UFC. And this is the thing to me that puts him ahead of any other lightweight until another lightweight does this. BJ Penn went up in weight and fought the most dominant champion probably ever in the UFC at the time, and that was Matt Hughes. Matt Hughes was a fucking monster. Like, a lot of people give GSP a lot of credit. I don't even really care for GSP that much. I'm not that impressed with him. All he did to me was lay and prey on all of his opponents for five. His fights were boring as shit. I couldn't stand watching GSP fights, to be honest. To me, the best welterweight champion ever is Kamaru Usman. And then after that, for me, is Matt Hughes. And then GSP. I know a lot of y'all have GSP as the greatest ever. He's third for me. Matt Hughes was a fucking monster. Matt Hughes went in there with the intention of hurting people. You were not going to get out of a fight unscathed with Matt Hughes. Matt Hughes was that much of a beast at the time. He was definitely the most dominant champion in the UFC at the time. And BJ Penn went up in weight and beat the unstoppable Matt Hughes and became the first ever champ. BJ Penn was the original champ. Lightweight champ and welterweight champ. He did what nobody else was able to do, and he beat Matt Hughes. That's how good BJ Penn was. The equivalent today would be Khabib or Charles going up and beating Kamaru Usman. And to be honest, I really don't see that happening. As great as they both are, I don't think either one of them could beat Kamaru at welterweight. I just don't. Now, this is the UFC, anything can happen. It's a possibility. It could happen. I just don't see it happening. But the two greatest moments, in my opinion, that have ever taken place in the UFC, and there has been millions of great moments, but these two stand out for me. And the entire time I've been watching UFC, the first is when BJ Penn beat Matt Hughes for the welterweight title, and the second one is when Anderson Silva annihilated Rich Franklin for the middleweight title, because Rich Franklin was also a fucking monster. Rich Franklin was beating everybody's ass. I mean, he was killing everybody until Anderson Silva showed up and started a new era. And he put a beating on Rich Franklin 2 fights. He made it clear who the better fighter was between the two. And that was pretty much the end of Rich Franklin. I mean, he stayed around and still won fights, don't get me wrong, but Anderson Silva was definitely the new sheriff in town at that point. And between the two, like I said, now I do think Francis Ngannou is going to be the third phenom. I think if he stays healthy, he's also going to be a fighter that nobody else will ever be able to imitate. And that's really what makes a fighter a phenom, in my opinion. Fighters who do things that nobody will ever be able to duplicate. Nobody will ever be able to duplicate the things Anderson Silva did. Nobody will ever be able to duplicate the things BJ Penn did. And to be honest, I think Francis Ngannou is going to be in that class too. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Khabib is a phenom in a sense because nobody has ever wrestled like him. And I would even throw John Jones in there with Khabib. And then somebody who didn't have as much success, but was the most phenomenal knockout artist I've ever seen, was Anthony Rumble Johnson. You know, nobody knocked out people like Anthony Rumble Johnson. Now, I will put somebody close to him as well, and that would be Conor McGregor, because he was another fighter who knocked out a lot of people, unlike anybody else. So I would say, you know, those other 5 fighters are also somewhat phenoms, but nobody quite the caliber of BJ Penn and Anderson Silva. As good as Israel Adesanya is, he's no Anderson Silva. Not by any means. Not even close. And like I said, as good as Charles is and Khabib is, they're no BJ Penns. Like I said, BJ Penn beat everybody at lightweight. During his reign, man, BJ Penn was a phenom. There's no other way to describe him. He just was a phenom. And I doubt, you know, like I said, the things he did, I don't see anybody ever being able to repeat ever again. I don't ever see a lightweight champion beating a welterweight champion again, unless I think, yeah, not if they're the caliber of Cameron Usman, that's for sure. It's not happening. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to say to y'all. I just wanted to make that video to remind everybody who the true lightweight GOAT is. You know, when it comes to the other weight classes, it's hard to say. I think Anderson Silva is definitely the middleweight GOAT, and I think BJ Penn is the lightweight GOAT. And honestly, you know, I think Cameron Usman has set the standard for the welterweight GOAT. And John Jones probably is definitely the light heavyweight GOAT. You know, I think Francis Ngannou is going to be the heavyweight GOAT. I don't see a heavyweight ever beating Francis again. Not ever. But anyway, y'all, man, I hope you liked the video. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. And please leave your thoughts and comments. I love y'all. Thank you for watching the video. Everybody stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy. Peace.